legislate that as well. Okay. Are you ready? Let's.
I'll come to order. This meeting of Greene County Council is now in session. Please rise and join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everybody for coming to tonight's or this afternoon's county council meeting. We've got a little bit of a lengthy agenda, so we'll get right into it. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes that were emailed to you? If so, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brent, second by Ron. That's to waive the reading and accept as presented. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Joe?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda is the county assessor salary and levels discussion. The floor is yours, ma'am.
I'm just here about the salary ordinance to request that our level bonuses continue to be paid the way that they've been paid in the past, where we get our level 2 and level 3 in January, and then request that the designation bonus be received in February. I know there was some question about how that should be paid out. I have contacted Barry Woods with the DLGF, a couple other assessors, and I've talked to Lori with the State Board of Accounts, and she said that the way that we are doing it is fine, that it can be paid out in the beginning of the month like that. It just has to specify that in the salary ordinance.
Questions? Comments?
I think the comment I have is that it should be kept that way as the annual stipend, the lump sum, because I feel like if we didn't do it for her and her employees, then those others that have a one-time supplement or a one-time stipend, such as the clerk with voter registration election board, that we would have to be theirs hourly too. So
just keep it all the same then?
Well, in the budget, and on salary, like the prosecutor, his is paid by the hourly. His is paid by a lump sum. So do we have to do it for everyone, or is it preference by whoever's receiving it, how they get it, or how do we do that?
The judges I do directly through the state, so that's how I want to do it.
Okay.
I can do it for payments, or I can do it for one. I do it for one, just do it all.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
With the prosecutor and the deputy prosecutor, that's for condition that I know of for sure. I'm sure they would have it that way. There may be something within the law that they have to do it that way. I don't know. That's just the way we always done it. Like the stipend, until I found out from other auditors what was going on. Now, where Rogers said it was better, you know about where Rogers said, well, okay.
No, Lori Birch.
Or, okay, see, I'm talking about Lord Rogers, who is the state level. Auditors looking this back and forth and said that's the way it should be done, is spreading it out.
And right now we have about half of the assessors that are getting it and one sum, and about half that are getting it throughout the year. So,
My only request is if you receive that, send it to me so I can tie it to it. That way we'll have it back. You know what I mean?
yeah, I talked to her on the phone.
I just need something right.
She basically what she said was, however our salary ordinance was written is the way it should be paid. And as long as we are following our salary ordinance, that she doesn't see whether it should be 1 or 12 or 26. She said they don't really have a preference as long as we're following our salary ordinance.
That's all I can have. I'll be glad to do it. And I'll talk to Lori Robbins on your behalf. Lori or Ricky from the state. If they say that's cool. Because what I received from other auditors said, no, you need to follow your IC. And this is the way it's done.
The IC code doesn't specify how many pays it has to be. It just says that it has to be part of your pay. So when you put it on my paycheck in January and you take out taxes and you take out perf and you take all that, it's considered to be part of my pay. And that's all that the statute says.
If that's what they tell me, that's what I'll do. But that's not the way Lori Rogers explained it at the beginning.
Okay.
But maybe if it's sort of convoluted and they say this is fine, I'm good with that. But if it's not, I'm not doing it. So we just, I mean, from my standpoint.
Okay, so I guess then my question, it goes back to like, you know, with longevity, you do a lump sum. As I mentioned, not to pick on Stuart, but, you know, within the salary ordinance and stuff there, we've got down that he gets $1,000 stipend or bonus, whatever you want to call it, for voter registration, $1,000 for election board, and he's getting it paid one lump sum. So if we do hers hourly and her employees hourly, do we not have to do the rest of them hourly?
You're talking an IC code directly for the assessor.
Okay.
I'm not talking about the clerk, I'm not talking about anybody else, but the assessor. And if
Okay.
that is okay, trust me, I have no problem.
Okay.
But my final authority is the law, not, it's just it. I don't think it is a problem, because some say they still do it.
Yeah, they half of them still do it. And actually, the one assessor that got in trouble, I actually spoke to her on the phone, and she had to pay back money. They get it as a lump sum. When they got their hand smacked, it was because the salary ordinance said that they were to get X amount of dollars, and her claim was for a different amount. So she had to pay that back. They never said anything to her about getting it in a lump sum, and she still to this day gets it in a lump sum.
Again,
So,
Okay.
I told you what I'm saying, that's what I
Right.
gotta go by.
Okay.
Let's table this until Matt finds out, and then we can go.
I tell you what, when I first found out, I was concerned for your sake. So I sent it to Marvin. Now Marvin would be what, for me, he would represent much better about what I think.
Counselor.
I'm not entering an opinion one way or another, and if Matt is willing to follow up with Lori Rogers at SBOA or with Ricky
Hofer? Yeah, Hoffer.
at SBOA and get a written opinion, then I am going to be satisfied whatever that is. I personally don't care one way or the other how it turns out. The statute says the county fiscal body shall establish a salary schedule. That applies both to the certification pay for the assessor. The same language is used in establishing certification pay for the deputy assessors. How you interpret the words salary schedule, how SBOA tells us to interpret the words salary schedule, sounds like we will ultimately find out. There is no guidance in the statute as to what that means. It is used in 2 or 3 other places. And to me, in the context it is used into those 2 or 3 other places throughout the body of Indiana law, I think the implication is that it is hourly. But if SBO is satisfied, I'm definitely going to be satisfied with whatever they come up with, and if they say the lump sum is fine, then between Matt and I will make sure that that language is clear in the salary ordinance and it'll be handled that way. But this is specific to assessor's pay and the language used in the statute. Unfortunately, it is not defined.
Matt, along with that, can you kind of get us a list of who gets what, when, how they're paid. That way we can kind of see an overview of what those are.
You mean the
Are we gonna pay
assessors?
them all the same?
I just want to see what everybody, you know, like the prosecutor, the judges, everybody that gets
All
this.
listed in the salary.
Anything with a stipend or?
Yes, short of longevity, which we know how that's paid and stuff. That way we can just kind of get a little broader view of what we're looking at.
I don't think it makes any difference on the budget as much as the salary, right?
Right, salary
Yeah,
ordinance.
salary.
It's
So
the
it's not gonna
ordinance.
affect the budget, it's gonna be the salary,
Yeah, the
ordinance
ordinance.
will be governed how those are paid. Right. So,
So-
whatever, as long as I'm not, I don't have a problem. Well, I think I'm just gonna check it out first, we don't have to approve that salary ordinance today. Yeah, I'll make a motion to table until Matt finds out that, and then we will revisit before the salary ordinance is approved. That's
Motion from Joe to table, second by Ron. Roll call vote, please. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thanks, Don.
Next on the agenda is the 4-H leader presentation. We're not as mean as we look, so don't worry.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank you for your time, for me to be able to come and speak with you guys today. My name is Carly Smott, and I'm a junior at Linton Stockton High School. I just finished my 8th year of 4-H. Through 4-H, I have done various projects, one of which is sewing and fashion review. With fashion review, for the last 3 years, I've qualified for state. Through that, this is me able to go up and model at the state fair and represent our county. I've also been able to meet new friends from other schools through my years of 4-H, most of which I'm still friends of which today. In 2020, like anything else, the fair was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, but that didn't stop us from having our fair. The office and the board found ways for us to have a fair, one of which was we live streamed everything, one of which being our shows, through Greene County Sports Network. During this time, I was interviewed by them during my horse show, and I was asked questions about my horse and my project and 4-H. Also through my time at 4-H, I've had the privilege of being a part of junior leaders. I have been able to do many things with junior leaders, some being as small as group bonding trips, all the way up to picking out the fair theme, designing the shirts, and being able to host 65 to 70 kids in a mini meeting. This coming 4-H year, we were able to form a llama and alpaca club. It was an expedition year where we showed llamas and alpacas from someone else. But this led me to go and purchase my own llama and alpaca. I would also like to formally invite you guys to our open house tomorrow, if you can, to see what we all are about. And I'd like to tell you that we were able to serve 431 4-Hers last year. And once again, I would like to thank you for your time today and your generosity to the 4-H organization for in the past and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where is the open house at?
The open house is at the 4-H fairgrounds, and it's 5:30 to 7:30.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Buskirk, and I'm a freshman at Eastern Greene High School. I have been doing many projects for 7 years now, and one of them is baking. So baking has made me step out of my comfort zone. When I started foods in 4-H my first year, I was not thinking I would have a bakery today. Doing foods in 4-H has taught me how to experiment with ingredients and food flavors. Most of my menu I have today is baked goods that I have made for food projects. On my 5th year of 4-H, I started my bakery business, and I still have it today. My 5th year of 4-H Brandon Mix project was to make apple cake. I started to experiment with recipes, and people started to offer to pay me. I started to make other things for a profit, too, and led me to pay for school trips and fundraisers by myself. Since then, I've added to my bakery, and 4-H has impacted my life and led me to a different career decision if I want to be a chef or baker. I am really glad I joined 4-H and have found something I love to do. Thank you to every single one of you guys for impacting all our 4-Hers, and you too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good.
Very worthwhile program.
Yes.
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 Nice to hear those stories.
Okay, next on the agenda will be the Superior Magistrate Court judges for workload.
Flying solo tonight. Judge Rudisell is not able to be with us. He's a little under the weather, so. But I do have access to him if you guys have any questions that I can't answer. I did bring my phone. I told him I could put him on speakerphone. I just have a couple of handouts. The one is he has prepared the first one here. We're going to be asking, or we're asking for an additional court reporter for the magistrate courtroom, or for the magistrate court. When we started the magistrate court, Judge Allen and I think we had come before most of you and said we thought we could get by with just what we already had, and we have done that for 6 years now, but I don't think we can do it any longer. We had hired one full-time person. We had hired one full-time person to be in the magistrate court, and then one of my deputy court reporters had gone down there. She was housed down there, and she was doing part of her work out of the magistrate court, working for the magistrate, but still doing some of it for me. But our caseload has gotten such, the criminal caseload in the Superior Court, that I need my person back. The one graph that I have given you shows we got the magistrate in 2015, and you can see just our criminal cases that have gone up in the Superior Court. For instance, as of Friday afternoon, we've had 640 just misdemeanors and level 6 cases filed in Superior Court. That doesn't include any of the cases that have to come back on for PTRs, that they violated probation, they haven't successfully done conditional discharge, they haven't done pretrial diversion. Those are just new filings, and it doesn't count the higher level offenses or the miscellaneous, because those we have to go through each court. And when we're talking about time and time management, I just didn't have time to go through and pull all those numbers. So I apologize that it's not as thorough as it could be, but that just gives you an idea of the number of cases that we're addressing. I brought my staff with me. They're the ones that kudos for been enduring this. We are accruing comp time at just a huge amount each week. For instance, last week we had a jury trial, and most of my court reporters worked 14 hours that day. So that was just in one day. But then, so that is, and then also to show the support, I've asked our chief deputy public defender, she's here, or chief public defender, she's here. We've got Judge Allen here from Circuit Court, and the prosecuting attorney, I believe he is here in support of our request. I spoke with the sheriff, and I believe he is also in support of our request. All of these different offices and agencies are feeling the same impact we are, and of course, you know, the paperwork, you know, it all has to be generated to go to these different places, and that's coming through our office. We try to do it as quickly as we can, but when you just have so many cases, you can only do so much. But then, I'm jumping around, but what Judge Rudisell has put together, it shows that our magistrate court gets funds as reimbursements for having the 4D cases heard in his court. And I'm not going to go through each figure, but it shows that he is pulling back into the county more each year than has been used by the magistrate court. And even if we hire, you know, another person, you know, there's still going to be, I mean, it might not cover all of it, but it would you're not going to feel the entire amount of that position because of the types of cases he does, the 4D, and the money that we receive from him. So.
Well, with all the support you have with the officers backing you, I'm afraid to oppose it. This year, you're trending the same or a little higher than we were last year?
Probably even a little bit higher because of COVID. It did take a toll on some of our numbers, but this year, I don't believe they're going down. And like I said, I've asked them if they want to say anything, they're prepared to, but I didn't know if you want to hear from everybody, or I think everybody needs support. Like I said,
support, yeah.
not only is my office feeling this,
Don't have to hold it.
yeah, everybody is. And Judge Rudisell and I met with Marvin last week because we were like, we don't know where to start because we need to fill this position. And it kind of started with, the person that was in the magistrate court working for Superior Court has left. And so do we fill it in just the same way that we had, or we really, this is the time where he needs a person dedicated to him and I need my person back. And so, we thought we need to find out what support we have because we don't want to hire somebody and they think they're going to be doing divorces and protective orders and then they're actually working for me and they're going to be doing criminals. And trust me, some people might not be as interested in, a particular position.
Those reimbursements, Matt, what fund do they come back in? General fund?
General.
Any other questions, comments, or anything?
I guess my question is, I had talked to Dina earlier and they're wanting to fill that position as soon as possible. So where do we, like from January, we can add like an amendment to the budget to include a full-time. Where do the funds come from right now to pay somebody? What do we do there?
My guess is it would still be on the general fund. I don't know what else. I'm not sure what is able to be done.
We don't.
Yeah.
I didn't know what is the process for that?
No,
Because
I can
truly,
see what
like
you're
you would ask for like an additional appropriation or something, but we don't have time for that. I think Jared's got it.
One thing you can consider, through the incentive fund program that we have through running child support in our office, to meet certain goals, money comes back to you. It's different from reimbursement, and it goes into 3 accounts. It goes into one account for our office, prosecutor's office, one for the clerk, I think, and then one for the county. That money sits there, to be honest, and back me up, it's because it has to have some tie, it has to have some nexus to child support. And there's only so much that we can tie into that. And I haven't looked at the figures lately, but my guess is there's over $100,000 in the county's account, maybe closer to $200,000. If the money can be used to pay for Luke's new position and it has some sort of tie to handle child support cases, there's a source of money that you could use to cover between now and the end of the year, and maybe even tap into it for at least part of the pay going forward.
Okay.
And Matt can look more into that. Stephanie Deal, who runs the child support division in my office, she can be contacted tomorrow if you have more questions about it. But that's a source of money that we have.
Okay.
Good. I assume you want us to do this if we can.
As soon as
Yesterday?
As soon as possible. So I'll make a motion that we allow them to hire somebody in as the deputy court reporter for the magistrate court as soon as possible.
And then figure out how the money.
And then figure the money.
Okay, I've got a motion to hire a new person for the magistrate from Kelly. Do I have a second? Second by Ron. Any other discussion or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank all of you.
Thank you and your people for what you did.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the county recorder. Oh, ma'am.
Good afternoon. It's been better. So I am just wanting to transfer funds. Basically, I tried to do a big book scanning project, which of course includes indexing of those scanned documents every year. This year, we did a smaller one, so we are going to finish it up a little early. Next year, you'll have already approved a rather large one. So I'd just like to go ahead and move some funds around, get a jump start on that, to be able to pay the deposits, because they have to scan it, and then it takes 3 months before all the images are imported and before my part-time girls can even start back indexing. So it won't be available until next year anyway, but I just wanted to go ahead and get a jump start on it since we are wrapping this one up. Go ahead and get started with the next
How
one.
much
So
from where to where?
sure, from both in the perpetuation funds, the 01-0020 for the project staff, which is money to pay them to back index. I budgeted for the rest of the year. I only need about 10,000. There's about 30,000 in there, so we can transfer 20 over to the 03-0060 to the scanning portion. That'll put me at about 25,000 over there, and the deposit for next year is 18,000. So get everything still covered, get a jump start on next year's project.
Okay, so you're asking to transfer 20,000
10,000.
or
20,000
20,000?
from
Okay.
the 01-0020, the perpetuation, which is
Going to
payroll,
what funds are going to?
to the 03-0060.
What's that called?
Also in perpetuation. It's called book scan.
If they approve it, yes.
Questions, comments? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion. Motion by Brent to accept.
Transfer the funds.
Motion by Brent, second. Second by Kelly. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Aye.
Brent? Ron?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, Matt, this is
Hey,
Karen. Can you
Matt,
hear
this
me?
is Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Question on
Yes,
the
he can.
signature.
Question on the
signature process.
on the signature process. Do I need to come in and sign all this when I get back, or how does that work?
No, I'll put approved by phone or by Zoom video, however Marvin tells me to. So
Yeah,
you're good.
Okay.
Normally
Okay.
what I do, Karen.
Okay.
Normally what I do is just /mark S/mark person's name parentheses Zoom parentheses. And it's clear that we have your approval, so thank you for doing that on the record.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next on the agenda, Highway Superintendent. Additional appropriation approval.
This is just basically final approval of the request we made the last meeting for 80,000 additional to cover culverts, fuel that we build out, and the money's
Oh, we advertised last month.
Yes, it was advertised. This is basically final approval.
Motion? By Ron, second. By Brent. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Ron? Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. You're up, Doug.
I should be quick. Marvin and I had got together to change the job description, basically just taking the paramedic out of the field supervisor job description so that it can be an EMT. It's been through the annuals board and now we need council. There's no real clinical part of the description that just allows it.
It's not a new job or anything.
No, it's not a new job. It's just a change of description.
Just got an email about that.
Yeah, probably 10 days or so ago, Ron, I circulated the proposed description.
And it just changes the salary ordinance a little bit because EMT as a supervisor would be cheaper than medical supervisor. It's a formality.
Is that definitely how?
Well, I have a supervisor that I'm going to lose because her husband's going to be an employee here again, so she can't be the supervisor. So we're just so short on that, it's hard to find. It just opens us up to, 12 other employees that could possibly be a supervisor.
There is additional pay for that?
Yeah, and it's 90-some cents an hour.
92, 93 cents an hour in each category. The 2022 salary ordinance is set up to show a paramedic field supervisor in case it is a paramedic, and then separately from that to show an EMT field supervisor level, which I believe was $13.81 instead of the $12.88 regular pay.
That gives you some flexibility there too.
You have 2 paramedic field supervisors.
Well, yeah, 2.
Well, you have
one's a chief.
You have one,
Yes.
chief. Okay, you're just taking one of those.
Yeah, so the chief field supervisor wouldn't be changed.
You're not going to change it. You're just going to change the 2 paramedic field supervisors, the 1 paramedic field supervisor, and 1.
You have one of each.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, the job description would allow you to have both of them, but right now they're filled by paramedics. The person that's stepping down as a paramedic, and that position could be filled by an EMT. I'm not saying it's going to be, but it allows me to do
Gives you
that.
flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean, as it is right now, it has to be a paramedic.
Right, because the job
Just
description
wording.
says paramedic.
Motion? Motion by Ron, do I have a second? Second by Brent. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Well, I had a lot of breaking up in that one, so can I get a clarification on what the motion was?
Basically, the motion is to accept the salary ordinance change, basically.
No, job description.
The job description, the job description, taking paramedic out of the job description, which will allow them to have an EMT take that position.
Field supervisor is the position, Karen.
Field supervisor, thank you.
Okay, aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
You got it, sir. Motion
Thank
passes.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Doug.
Have a good day.
Gary, this is for a full-time nurse job description grant funding.
Thank you.
Floor is yours, babe.
Okay, so what I'm presenting today, I'm withdrawing the request to change our part-time nurse to full-time, our LPN position. We're going to leave that just as it is for 2022, no changes. And we have gotten funding from the Indiana Department of Health to fund a community community health worker, which is also a nurse position, for a specific scope of work. This position was presented to the commissioners because we've got funding through June 30th of 2022, and the additional funding from July 1st to December 31st of 2022 has been, the commissioners have approved to use the recovery funds for the remainder of that 2022 year. So what I'm presenting to the council for approval is the job description and adding this position to the 2020 salary ordinance. So doing the motion in combination to approve the job description and adding this job to the 2020 salary ordinance. This job is a temporary position that is contingent on funds being available. So in the job description, language to that effect was put in the job description, documenting that it's funded through December 31st, 2022, and that for continuing will depend on funds and need.
Do you have a part-time nurse now?
Yes, we do.
How do you pay her?
We are paying her through 1159, the tax law.
1159.
Yes. The general fund.
It's not the general fund, it's the health fund.
The health fund.
Administration fund.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, it's our general fund.
Oh, it's not even in the general fund. Well, I've got blank on the budget for last year and the proposed budget for 22 and the part-time nurse. I was just wondering, if you have her, what do you pay her?
This is a copy of the minutes from October 28th of 2020. I'm not sure what happened that monies didn't get appropriated in 2021, but from the minutes, the last paragraph above the signatures, you can see the decision that you guys approved unanimously to add this full-time position to the health department. I'm sorry, this part-time permanent position to the health department.
What are the paying of it? I mean, I don't have anything with the part-time nurse. I mean, that was
not
the question.
grant funded.
I wonder, do we have
That's not CARES money?
No.
That's what it was supposed to be.
It was
I
never.
thought it was supposed to be CARES money.
Well, if you look above that, just above that paragraph is the last distribution of CARES dollars, and during that time, nowhere was it mentioned that this position would be funded with CARES dollars. And there's also a video that you can go back and watch of the council session.
You want to add another employee?
We are adding another employee under the grant that we received with an additional scope of work.
That's
So this,
full-time employee.
yes, based on the scope of work for the funds that were granted.
We still have permanent part-time.
We will still have our part-time
The $20
permanent
an hour or
nurse.
whatever that is.
Yes.
Where does that come from? I mean, yeah, I have a question because on my spreadsheet is nothing there.
Yeah, 2021, there was no budget for a part-time nurse.
Either, there was no proposed budget for this, or proposed salary for this.
Yes, it is. That's
We good deal.
Yeah,
I don't
when you
mind,
go
I
in
might think
under-
pop it up on my computer with personal, so I sort of work.
Right, when you go under the monthly budget,
I can go
monthly-
under the reports, but they don't give names.
Right, but under the monthly report, it shows the part-time nurse, it shows no designated,
No,
dollar amount, but then it shows how much the nurse has been being paid each month.
I'm looking for the 960. The one that just says, simply says part-time nurse. There is a part-time nurse is being paid around 1159, but there is no budget for it. She just being paid for that line item.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to figure out how that happened.
I don't do the, we pay for the, we get the pay for it. So she's been, what, Sherry would fill out and send to us, we pay her for it, but is that, what does the minutes say? Do they say from?
All it's, on the October minutes, all it says is that we approved job descriptions. It doesn't say that we approved the position, we just approved job descriptions. For a permanent, namely licensed practical nurse, and 2 temporary, namely clinical professional, and intake specialist, non-clinical.
Just job descriptions.
Let me look at last year. There was always, the part-time nurse was paid through October of last year. I'll back at this year. Now, there was nothing paid out of that last year. So I might have to look under who the person was.
And it's Michelle Ravitch, and then Carrie Ash.
Let's see if I can find that one.
We're just not showing any. I'm showing blank, and I'm like, how do you pay this person?
They have to wait until I can get to it because I can't pull it SSN.
So
You
for
know,
this full-time.
if someone knows what she would have been paid at through the, I'll look at that. Okay, did she not start till January? Is that the case?
She started, we had some coverage in 2019 and 2021.
Okay, in 2021, she was paid out of 1159. Looking at that same account line in 2020, there's nothing there. Do you think she may have been paid out of?
In 2020?
Yes.
I think she started, did she start in January when we started she started in January.
Okay, if it was January this year, so I'll be paid out of 1159, which is, she says that's their general fund, that's really sort of right, because that's their main one, they get taxpayer funds.
So is the bottom line on the health administration total higher than what's listed here then?
Or you mean how much it's spent?
Yeah, on the, where it says health administration total on the bottom. Would that be a higher number than what's listed on my?
More than likely, if what's been spent will, if everything else stays consistent, it's gonna be more, because it's out of, it's appropriated fund, but there's no appropriation. So that will.
Right, it's not in line.
Any other questions or comments or anything?
The total, the budget was 209,000. And that's right. No, that's it.
My budget's 255.
Okay, 255, 455, they spent 209.
Okay.
So, more than likely,
You got it.
I don't know the spending, but you can divide it out and multiply it by 12.
We had some vacancies.
Do we appropriate?
It may be more than that before it's all said and done. But the thing, I will say this, on Sherry's behalf, each county received a reimbursement of PPE supplies or something that's like that. We received $107,000, was told by State Board of Accounts to put it in this fund. So she has $107,000, or 100 and some thousand, that's got her in the black again, so we're told that appropriate. But I don't see anywhere where there's an appropriation made. So that's the one thing that must have fell through the cracks.
Yeah, so we need to make that.
Well, the best way to do it is probably to, I don't see any good way of doing it under additional appropriation, because sometimes I can, toward the end of the year, I'll fix things, move them around. Sometimes with your permission, if it's across category lines. If it's not category lines, I don't worry about asking. It's just,
It would be within her.
you would, yeah, there'd have to be an additional appropriation. There's really no good place to take it.
Sherry, when will this full-time nurse position start? Is it January or?
November 1st.
November 1st. So you were looking to turn your part-time into full-time?
I was, but that's off the table now.
Okay. So you have a full-time nurse now?
And a part-time
And part-time. And you were wanting 2 full-times?
No. Initially I was.
Yeah, so
that was the
now
first
you've
request.
got your wish. You've got 2 full-time nurses now, right?
No. The best way to say this, I think, to look at this, my original approach to you guys was to have 2 FTEs in the nursing department, full-time FTEs. Right now we have 1.5 to do health department work and add-on work because of the pandemic. Now, we received a grant that asked us to do additional work that is similar to some of the work we're doing, but adding a whole nother scope of services that are required to receive this, which is going to need a full-time nurse to do this job. So, because we're getting this additional funding and there's some overlap, I am taking that request to change our part-time nurse to a full-time nurse temporarily off the table. We're going to leave things like they are.
So you're going from 1.5 to 2.5?
We're going from 1.5 to 2.5 FTEs, that's right. But this new FTE is a temporary, I won't say temporary,
right,
but
as long
a
as the grant,
contingent position on need and funds.
Right.
Well, as I remember on the part-time person, that's going to be paid with CARES money, and when that money was gone, then that position was gone.
That's not.
So $13 an hour.
There were 3 positions that were for grant funds that are temporary, and when those grant funds go away, those positions go away. The part-time LPN was approved as a permanent part-time position for the health department.
We approved the job description.
Yeah.
So would you not approve a job description as a permanent part-time with the intent of never filling it?
I'm pretty certain that back when we talked about this, we talked about, because you had come before us for the 2021 budget, wanting another full-time nurse. And then we discussed that we would go down to a part-time, but it was supposed to be within the scope of having CARES money to help pay for that.
That's not my regulation.
Well, that's my regulation, and I mean, there can't be like 2 or 3 or 4 of us that feel that way and it not be that kind of discussion.
I don't know if that was, I think that would have been my intent. And that was, at that time, that was my intent, that it would have been CARES money. And I thought that's what we were doing.
Back in May.
Yes, sir. Councilman.
Just a question for Kelly for clarification. The comment that you just made sounded like you were talking about discussion during a budget session as opposed to a discussion related to the actions taken in October 2020.
Probably a
Can you
combination of
clarify
both.
that for me?
I think that was probably a combination of both. I think she came to us originally during budget hearings wanting a full-time position. And at that point in time, we were talking about, we didn't think we had the money to do a full-time, so we kind of discussed doing a part-time. But I just feel like, I believe I remember this, and that when we talked in October, we approved a part-time nurse job description as long as there was CARES money to provide for that.
And my recollection is we talked about those things. We also talked about having the full-time nurse, and you guys wanted me to start with part-time to see if there could be, enough need for that person, and the fact that it was coming out of the general fund, that you were willing to fund a permanent part-time nurse, but not a full-time nurse.
And unfortunately, I couldn't find my notes for that October meeting. I just couldn't. I've looked all over. I can find my notes for September of 2020. I can find my notes from December of 2020. But October and November, I cannot find. So,
I looked back at the last day of the budget hearings of 2020, and you as a group approved part-time nurse for $20 an hour. So you did do that. So it was discussed, I guess, before the October.
okay.
But I can't find anything about it.
But you can't find anything about the CARES money either. Okay. I guess my other question, I guess the question I have now, Sherry, is so like in the 2022 salary ordinance that Matt sent us, so within the health department, there's the part-time nurse, which is Carrie Hash, correct?
Correct.
At $20 an hour. But then he's also got down here as COVID-19 testing grant, her as a testing tech, being paid $20 an hour. So
yes, all of
how do you determine which money is which money that she gets paid?
Carrie is being paid as our part-time nurse. She's no longer the tech anymore. She was once Michelle Raudebush, who's no longer with the department. Carrie was hired into that position. So
okay.
We have other nurses that are working as her in our tech.
Okay. So do you have somebody there, I guess, a clarification on this for the salary ordinance? So it lists 3 different people here for testing techs. Carrie's just no longer one of them. There are 3.
Yes.
Okay.
We have testing techs and we have intake workers too at $15 an hour. And that's all paid under grant and everybody's part-time.
Right.
We try to keep
Greg, I've gotten
a
little bit confused. I'm a little bit confused on the part-time. So the 2020 CARES Act funded position, there is no more CARES money, right? So I'm a little bit trying to follow this. So how are we paying that part-time person now?
It's just coming out of the 1159 Health Department, Health Administration Fund.
As additional appropriation, right?
Okay, and that was all. Okay, and that was all, and we approved all that, or we, the council, I wasn't there at the time, but.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea to do it just to get it caught up. If that's going to be used for the rest of the year to try to make that account line even, bring it back whole. I think that's a good idea.
Any more questions or comments?
So for 2022, I'd like to do an additional comment. If I can.
Go ahead.
So for 2022, because we're not changing anything with that position, the funding amount is $32,029.92. That's for the 29 hours a week at 1,508 hours.
For the part-time nurse?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Because I know initially I had that in.
But you have it in as 38,000.
Right, that's what I was
So it's 32,000?
It's $32,029.92. That includes the 6.2% raise.
Okay, instead of the 38,000.
Correct.
Is this for a part-time nurse?
Yes. So that means there'll have to be an adjustment made to the budget.
Adjust the raise possibly. The thing is, you can't change that budget. There's no way in the world you can go from, it just can't be done.
You pay
Okay.
you pay
Because
off
I have to
salary.
have it uploaded to them on the 1st.
Right.
And
So,
that's
okay,
over.
so talking about that, and I mentioned this earlier, I know we're talking health department here, but like that deal with Tammy Goodman, you updated the budget to reflect her amount, and she no longer is working there. So what happens? How do you take care of
Well,
that?
what I hope to do is, if there's other issues, so I'm gonna try, when I get to speak about that, I'm gonna try to get everything fixed, because you're pushing the envelope now.
Right.
As far as when, I mean, but anyway, we've approved it, to have you approve it to send to the board. I've seen it one time where I was in
Salary raise.
February doing
No, he's
the
not
next
with
year,
budget.
and people got paid what, whatever, but I would rather have it done the sooner the better. That way people know they're getting paid that, because they asked me. I said, I can't tell you because it's not been approved.
Right.
And so I know you want to make corrections, and if you want to go back to the old style of salary ordinance, that's fine. I'll give this one, the one I do tonight, but it makes her job easier.
Yeah, this doesn't matter as far as like the
The only,
the
it's
new
like
style.
I was trying to do it in my mind that you wouldn't be, now this, what you're saying on the tier system, yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely different. But it only affects about 20 employees, that's all
Right.
it affects. But like in the sheriff's department, some jailer's gonna quit, it's coming.
Right.
A new one just gets paid that rate. I
Right,
mean, that's-
exactly. Okay.
Okay, Terry, one more time. Tell me what this health nurse part-time, permanent part-time, we have 32 what?
$32,029.92.
That's what she's proposing, and that includes the 6.2%?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it moves from $20
Takes
to
the $20 away.
It moves from $20 to $21.24 per hour. The $1.24 is the 6.2% increase.
It's just gonna have to be split up with FICA line. We can't take FICA out of someone's salary.
Right. Okay.
Questions or comments?
So do you have somebody in mind for this job?
Yes, we're looking at our graduates from Ivy Tech to fill the position.
So Carrie's going to move up to your full-time, is that correct?
No, Carrie's gonna keep them, she's already in the position as a part-time nurse. She's working as our part-time nurse right now. And we're gonna bring someone in as a community health worker to manage, and I included the scope of work and the full budget from the state in this, what I just handed you guys.
Right.
So you can see that there's a more extensive amount of work that needs to be done at a higher level as well, higher skill. As this nurse will have administrative reporting duties as well as vaccination and community education responsibilities.
So Greg, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the audio. So really we're asking to approve this position for the full-time nurse that is a position only to, as long as it can be funded. And those dollars are already available, Sherry, to start this person on the 1st of November?
The grant money? Yes, they are.
The grant money?
Yes, those dollars are available. For the first half of the year, it'll be grant supported. The second half of the year, it's been approved that we use recovery funds to continue the position through December 31st, 2022.
And those funds are what?
And the budget, how does that work with the?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The question's really for Matt.
The question's really for Matt, I guess. So if we approve the position, what does that do to the FY22 budget, Matt, that we need to approve?
And I apologize if
And I apologize if I'm
Are you talking because of the grant fund, you mean?
I requested that Matt create a new account for this new grant fund, so it'll be a whole new account on the books, right?
Right. I really think it's best to do an additional appropriation on that. Even though it's only set for certain things. It doesn't affect this budget because you can't change it anyway. It went for next year.
She's talking about the new position.
For this November?
The new position for the...
That starts November 1st, right?
Yes.
Recovery money.
I think it's a good idea to do initial appropriation, but I mean, as long as it meets it by the end of the year.
You already got $33,139 from this fund. So we got the transaction traffic.
My concern's not the money.
Okay.
If the appropriation, just the permission to spend it.
Oh.
But Arlen knows like I do, not all of them have to be additional appropriations. And it is grant fund and it's used for very specific things. It may not even be necessary, maybe more like tracking. Because some funds are just tracking funds, basically. Some of the incentive funds, we have one that has appropriations in it, but the rest of them do not. Because that's all they can be used for. And hers is probably the same ways. My druthers just do an appropriation on it. But that doesn't stop them from, as long as we approve the job description, that's really all I need for now. If we would like to do an additional appropriation, we can do it, and it would meet it by the end of the year. That's really the main thing. Personally, I don't think you probably do need it. I just think it's a good idea.
So I have one other question.
About this new position, Sherry. So you said that the grant is going to fund,
that would be more than
but that would be more than 6 months if you start the person in November.
So do we have
money for 7 months, or is it 6 months and then the ARP money kicks in?
Yes, we do. Let's see. You didn't get a handout because you're on the screen, but I think it was emailed. The document that has the title October 5th, 2021, Health Department ARPA funding request. Item number 2 lists out how the funds are split. So $30,310 are from November 1st to June 30th, and then from July 1st to December 30th, and I'm sorry those dates are wrong, those should be 2022 instead of 2021, is $22,732.50. So we did split the funds for the 8 months on the grant, and then 6 months on the recovery funds, or Rescue Act funds.
Yep.
So when COVID goes away, or that funding goes away, that full-time person goes away?
Yes.
And you still keep the part-time person?
Any more questions, comments?
And you leave the part-time person even once things go back to normal?
Yes. Yes. One of the things throughout the pandemic and with increased visibility from the health department, the health department is being utilized even more. And we've also changed our, I want to say we're more community centric. Instead of everyone coming to the health department, we physically work in the community now, and that requires more labor.
Sherry, is it fair to say that record keeping and reporting required by ISDH have increased as well?
100%.
I would entertain a motion.
So, we're making a motion to add a job using the CARES Act and then following up with the ARPA.
Not the CARES Act, the Indiana
Recovery.
Department, State Department.
State Department of
grants.
Health,
Immunization.
immunization. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then the rest of it go by the ARPA funds.
And when the funding runs out, that position ceases.
And
And as
to,
far as this part-time nurse, I'm still no wiser of what's going on. But I'll make a motion.
this is for the
Approve
new position
new position
with
with the
funding.
grant funding.
I have a motion by Ron, do I have a second? Second by Brent. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
And this is to create the
And this is to create the position?
This is for
And
the,
hire.
And hire.
Create and authority to
Yes.
hire.
Right, an authority to hire with the full-time nurse, pending on the continuation of the funding.
Okay, aye.
Okay, aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Yeah.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
I'm abstaining.
See? And I'll vote aye. So we have 6 ayes, 5 ayes.
5 ayes, no nays, 1 abstention.
You have your person. Okay, now where are we at on the part-time nurse?
It's actually not a topic for today.
Okay.
From an agenda standpoint. I mean, if you want to continue to discuss it as other matters, I think you can, but I'd like to make the recommendation that you table that discussion until more of us can go back and review that October 2020 video. At least I think there's an October 2020 video. That's about the time we started that process.
I'd like to make a motion to table that until we have more information.
Is there a motion? A motion by Ron to table. Second? Second by Brent. Could you hear that, Karen?
Yes,
Yes.
How do you vote, ma'am?
aye.
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Ron? Yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Board of Commissioners, Third Amendment, Local Physical Recovery Plan. Do we need to do anything on this part of it?
Yes, my recommendation.
There's Nate there.
Since you have that stipulated review,
Guys, you get my feedback.
Oh.
it started when they went on.
Yeah. The microphone feeds off each
Yeah.
It goes down in our house.
Karen could put hers
other.
Let's give it a chance to calm down. Now, what's happening now is it's feeding back.
Yeah, Karen just muted her, so we're good, I think. Okay.
We'll
go ahead.
see. Okay. What we have done on the original plan, the First Amendment and Second Amendment plans, is to have a ratification vote of the council to indicate your agreement with the proposed changes that constitute the Third Amended Plan. If you need me to highlight those changes quickly, I am prepared to do so. No, changes were made because changes are going to be made throughout this process unless or until they loosen regulations. Speculation is that within a year or two they may do that. But as of now, every time we add something to the plan, we you've got to amend the plan. And so there are a number of relatively minor changes, a couple of significant changes. Do you want me to go through those changes? Or are you satisfied? Okay.
Barbara says they're fine.
I wrote them.
I would entertain a motion. Motion by Ron to accept the amended.
Yeah, the amendment resolution.
Second. Second by Kelly. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am? You're muted. Is that an aye, Karen? I think it was an aye if I was lip reading right.
Well, I can read lips in the back.
Yeah. Brent, how do you vote? Aye.
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
I'm aye. How do you want to do with Karen?
Yes, sure.
If you're satisfied
I
that
am
she voted
satisfied that
aye,
she-
then we'll record the aye.
Okay. Okay. Did you hear that, Nate?
I heard it. It was an
I
aye.
heard it was an aye.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I heard her say aye.
I heard her say aye.
Okay.
You look fishy.
All right. Okay, next on the agenda is County Sheriff additional appropriation.
That's your last one. This is for approval.
I can just leave. Let me leave the meeting.
I think the first one was I had reimbursements, total $4,731.75. And this was for the approval. It was basically money from reimbursements on medical, prisoner meals, and repair of equipment.
Motion. Motion by Ron, second. Brent, roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, Karen?
Did you call for me, Ron? Did you call for me, Greg?
Yes, how do you vote on the
Aye.
approval?
Aye.
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 Yes.
Kelly? Motion passed. You have more?
I had one for, I'd come to you about vehicles, and asked for $120,000 out of the county corrections fund. That was for 3 vehicles. It's just a little under 120, but I also had to put equipment in them, and it'll actually be more than that but I'll cover the rest. The
How
radios.
much was the total you're asking for?
120. Okay.
Money?
It's a good balance in
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brent to accept. Have a second? Second by Kelly. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
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 Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Yes.
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 And you have them. You have them, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got an email from Jennifer White, who is the director of the Public Library, and Betty Main. Her reappointment is coming up. I think I sent you an email, at least added on a 4-year term. I think I sent you an email on that. But
Who are you approving?
Betty Main.
Reappointing her.
Reappointing,
Yes.
And she wants it, I think.
Yes, that's what Jennifer said. I said 4 years.
Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Motion by Ron.
To reappoint Betty.
Have a second? Second by Brent. Roll call vote to reappoint Betty Ming. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
On?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Give Ms. Ming our congratulations. I will.
When you sign
You just have to sign it.
Yeah, you approve it, yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is the 2022 Greene County budget approval.
The budget, hopefully you'll approve it, because I have to have it uploaded on Gateway by November 1st, or we go back to the 2021 budget.
Okay, so I guess my couple of questions. One is, so if we go ahead and approve it as is, that includes the $42,061 for Tammy Goodman, but that will need to be rolled back. By how much?
That'll be done in the salary ordinance.
Well, you have two different things you're looking at. The budget itself, if you want to lower that, whenever someone is higher than the rate they start at, we can do a budget adjustment first of next year. It'd be
For
like
that.
the opposite of additional appropriation. I'll take that down. to
Well, I
whatever
mean,
the
I
rate-
feel like we would have to, because we
No.
only jumped.
Well, in one way you don't, because that money can only be used for salary type things. But if it's there and they have a lot of overtime, they can move that to overtime, that extra. So it's really up to the council on how they want to do that. But it is next
We
year.
were talking about how much to pay the person, right?
Yes,
Five
because,
year and
yeah,
20
because
year.
we jumped it up because she had
She hit a
reached
milestone.
the 15-year
Yeah, that
milestone.
won't have that.
That was
So
before.
that'll fall back
I had no
on that.
idea she was.
We just,
Yeah, that'll fall back on that.
If you want to adjust the amount next year, you can.
for like the first.
But what I'm saying is, this person's going to get paid, whoever comes in, what they're going to get paid anyway. Salary ordinance will take care of that. So that extra doesn't mean anything unless Superior Court would move that something else they need in the same category, or across category lines, that'd go back to you.
That would be the only
Now, if
problem.
you just don't want that to be in there, that little bit of a slush, then you can take it out. We can do the opposite of additional
January.
appropriation and take it out to what the salary actually is. Of course, the judge, she does it, she's
Use the
not.
salary for whatever they pay her for first year and whatever's left over, they can move around on their own.
They can move around on their
Or
own
go
without
back
having to
and
come back to you,
general fund.
or if it's against category lines, they do. Or at the end of the year, it goes away.
Marvin?
I just wanted to add to the conversation, not confusion, but the knowledge that because of the things that have happened in both Superior Court and Magistrates Court, there is a substantial amount of comp time built up well beyond what can be reserved and carried over. Some of these funds may even be necessary next year to pay out comp time required to be paid out by county policy. Just
Okay.
keep that in mind as you consider the topic.
Okay. I guess, I understand that part, but I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, for budget, like, what their salary would be. Is the salary ordinance set up
See, that
previous
this-
to that?
Salary ordinance is always after the budget.
Right.
Right.
So does that?
When you approve the salary ordinance, they're not gonna get paid anything different that's on the salary ordinance, unless he does an amendment at your request or whatever. I
Okay.
cannot pay anybody else anything else than what's on the ordinance.
Right,
That's
right,
statute.
okay. Right. So
Salary
we
will
can-
govern everything.
So we can adjust
That's why I
that
want you to
in.
prove it quick as you can.
Okay.
I know you can't today, but as soon as you do that, then I can start doing my job, and I
Okay.
let it on and on.
Okay, so then with the 2022 budget, so then we'll have this right here as far as that one position, and then will the
Anything at all that would come up, we can take care of it first, we really can.
Okay, so that'll be like with the magistrate court, we'll do an amendment to the budget in January to add in that position?
No, here's the thing, here's the thing about that. You haven't approved the salary ordinance.
Right, so it'll
Well,
be
you
in
can
the
approve the
salary
budget
ordinance?
though. I think you're better off, you could approve the salary ordinance and then do an amendment at the first year, an additional appropriation. you'd have to do too to add that. But if you improve the salary ordinance, you can go ahead and get that person in a place where they need to be paid. You know what I'm saying? But you have to find somewhere to pay them. And if you are going to pay them somewhere, you need to make sure that additional appropriation is going to be approved to meet that, or you have to do something else. But more than likely, especially at the first of the year. Now, you know this whole thing, backing up a little bit, where the DLGF director, can't think of his name now.
Right.
When we were talking about, well, they don't let you do additional appropriations for the first year.
Right.
Now it's automatic. You don't know this, I guess I never told you, but when you approve it, I get on Gateway, upload it, bam, it's approved. It's not, that we gotta do this. Everything's mechanized, or whatever they call it. So it's not that big a deal now.
Okay.
I think they just assume you not still do it, but it's not that big a deal, because they don't see it. The computer, Gateway fixes it.
Sent that email out before we had COVID or anything like that. I think he was wanting us to think further ahead. So they didn't
Oh, no
have to
doubt.
go through
No
the
doubt.
extra work of doing additional.
But they've never said another word. Whenever they got that new program, where I don't text it to them or email it to them, I just put it on Gateway. And then it comes back to me denied or approved, and it's over. I mean, in seconds.
Save them time.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
they go on to other stuff.
Okay, so then the other thing with this budget is because we just tabled the part-time nurse, and she's got that in the budget listed at 38,000, and now she's saying it's 32,000, but we're tabling that. How does that affect our budget?
It doesn't affect this budget at all. When you look at this budget, you've got two choices.
Either approve it or we don't
or here we
approve
go.
it.
The only thing that we're gonna be able to change would be the salary ordinance.
The salary ordinance is what you
Is where we
do.
can
Additional
change
appropriation.
this.
And everything goes by the salary ordinance.
Okay.
That's law.
So
Okay.
we need to approve the budget, so you can turn it in before November 1st.
Yeah, because and since you tabled it, I also have to upload the minutes. Plus I have to upload these minutes. So I got like 3 days to come up with they won't be approved minutes, but it'll be some kind to show that it was tabled and approved and all that stuff. So I've got that hanging over. But we'll get all that done.
Okay.
But I would just, my only hope is you'll approve it as is, because if you don't, I don't have any good idea what to do. It'll just drop back to this year's automatically, as I've understood in the past. And that's just,
Well,
if,
yeah.
no ifs,
That's
ands, or
not
buts.
what-
It is
Yeah,
what
we
it
don't
is.
want to do that. I just had this question so that we know that we can take care of them, but these other issues can be taken care of either through the salary ordinance that we can approve next
Right.
month, and then any amendments if we need to the first of the year.
Right.
Okay.
It all comes back, and it took me a while to understand this, it all comes back to the DLGF, looks at the very last day of the year.
Right.
If through the year you're having to fix and all that, it's all good, but at the end of the year is the day, that's what they look at. So just
Okay.
like we talked about EMS is really doing a good job, I'm gonna go if he's here, but I'm point back there. If he's in the hole by the end of the year, I'll make sure he's flush, at least zero. And that's what they look at, it does not matter, any of that, it's the last day of the year.
Okay.
So on the budget, as we look at this one to approve.
Yes.
There's gonna be some changes. One will be based on the part-time.
Yeah,
person
it's
for
fully
sure.
up to the
It will
council.
be her concern. Will there be a revised out so, everybody sleeps between now and next August?
Okay, well, we revised what?
Will this budget be revised at all?
Anything to do with the budget is you. I can't make you do anything. But like I can say,
So when you look
well,
at this next year, you say, okay.
you talked about
38,000.
You talk about the like with Tammy when she's no longer with us. That as Marvin mentioned, you can move that to a place and use it. The only thing, the whole crazy thing about the comp time is it has to be paid, period. Because I approached the council a long time ago when I made that decision. Where do you want me to pay it for? Finally, they just said, pay it. I said, okay. So I just pay it. So I don't even really worry about it. That comp time to me is not a problem.
We never said anything.
I can give you the numbers. The problem is, when I pay it out, I have to pay it. So I don't ask anybody where, because you said pay it at the time. So that's a whole other issue.
Okay.
But there's some big comp hours because people have to get to work.
We entertain a motion to accept the 2022 budget as presented.
I will make a motion.
I have a motion by Ron. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Brent. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Aye.
Brent? Aye. Ron? Kelly?
Yes.
Joe? You have a budget, sir.
So just like, I think you all voted aye, so if you vote aye and then just sign it, and I'll take care of Karen, I'll get with Martin to make sure I do that right, and then I'll just say that Jerry was absent.
Be sure to mark it right, guys.
Yeah, there's gonna be some, I know there's gonna be some questions on that. So when you're ready, yeah, I think we need to discuss it and get it all, and then what I'll.
Discuss it and then.
Wait. Talk to me. If there's something you see, talk to me. Okay.
So we need to table the salary ordinance.
Just sign one thing.
Yeah, I know you got to table it, but if you don't care, I'd like to discuss it.
Discuss it.
Whenever I can start, can I start on the salary ordinance yet?
Yeah, they're good, go ahead.
Okay, well, they have the one thing with the assessor now, you know, it's not the amount that the ladies are gonna get paid in the office, it's whether it's a lump sum or worked into the salaries. So I'll find out from Lori Rogers and then I'll ask your opinion on it. Because the auditors were going back and forth, and I will say that a lot of them said they just don't go ahead and do it until whatever. So that, if the statutes is cloudy, then okay. We talked about Tammy. I tell you what I'm going to do. Now, if you want this, like I said, in a different form, I'll go back to the old way. But I think for me, if you let me keep it in this form, which I like because it just helps me in my.
I think I like this form over the 2021, where I like this where you, instead of this, where it just shows like, you know, this is the 2021.
And we put the probation together. I think Marvin had mentioned that. I tried to box them so you can see that.
Yeah, I think I like this better, where it shows the different things.
Not as much dissecting has to be done.
Right.
But if I'll give you a few things I'd like to do. When you mentioned Tammy, well, I think I'd also like to do like a beginning pay for someone coming into that position.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like whoever it is, it'll be their first year.
Another name you just put.
I'll do it, except for, like I said, there's only about 20 people, 25 that are affected by the tier system. So that won't be too bad. I'll just put it on the bottom. First year, to be determined and all that.
I don't, what did I just do with it? So I'm assuming, now, where did I put it? That the new court reporter, the new deputy court reporter will be coming in under the magistrate office. I just put that 37,000 something.
37,693.
Yes.
And I'll double check.
So that's kind of what I
everything.
thought, you know, maybe that's what the person taking over Tammy's position, but, you know, I don't know. I had concerns about that, so.
So you'll add one to the magistrate.
Yes.
I'm going to add one to everybody that has those types of deputies at the very bottom. So you'll see if whoever starts, you're covered.
Okay, so that will take care of the issue I had with Mike in the jail and in the public safety, that you only had 16.
Well, and that really does. I see what you're saying, but that's sort of, since they all get paid the same, jailers and the deputies. That even if it's another one that's added to it, you've already got that line for that person. So I mean, even if it's more, I don't look at that as being a problem. But I see what you're saying, because it could change. I mean, you know, the amount for each one may change.
That amendment each time.
Right. So I'll just yeah.
So it could be a lot of extra papers attached to this.
Yeah. But for me, it's just so much easier this way. I just like it because Dinah knows exactly what she's looking at. And the offices should be too, because I'll send it to all and try to dissect it for them.
I have one more question on that. Public defender had 8,000 in there for a intern.
Yes.
It doesn't show up on the salary orders.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Like one thing we ran into that I found that you had told me about, going back a little bit, you had mentioned those part-time cooks. Actually, this year, Sheriff Hassler hasn't had it.
Right.
But before, they got paid $10 when I looked it up. And that's under their $10, it's under their part-time, permanent part-time, $10 an hour. It was actually under the sheriff and not under the jail. So I can move it to the jail too, but all that is whoever is classified under that title, under that, whether it's a cook or anything else.
But when you try to compare this to the budget, I had a lot of issues with trying to find those people. This should mirror the budget to some degree.
I think part
It
of
will
what-
to a degree. But you know, you get like a part-time person, they're not making $12,550 a year in the sheriff's, in the cook, seasonal cook or tent cook. They're making $10 an hour. That's why I put specific rate. I'm not worried about how much is there.
You put it in the public safety.
That person
money
is
and-
making.
And they're not there.
Now what are we talking about again?
There's two cooks. You did put them in the jail, you put them into the...
No, I didn't even do that. The temp and seasonal make $10 an hour, and I just put them as permanent part-time, but I put that under the sheriff's and not the jail.
You put them in there at $14.24 an hour.
Does it say seasonal cook?
No, it just says cook.
That is a position. That's a full-time position.
Those are full-time.
No, there's a kitchen manager and a head cook too.
And there's two cooks. And he actually only has one because he needs another one, and he can't get anybody to. I mean, I know it's a different subject.
It's not in the budget.
But those aren't wrong.
It's not in the budget.
Okay, can I see your budget? But back to the other. If you would rather me say part-time cook, this time cook, and put $10 on all of them down, I can do that. What I usually, when you don't see a wage in there, it's $10 an hour for anybody part-time.
Right.
So that part, that's up to the council. I don't want anybody to be confused about it either.
Trying to look at, I compared this to the budget.
Okay, so here it says cooks. Two of them. That's one that's making $14,000. That's how it should stay.
Wrong.
Yeah, we knew about those.
There's none in the jail.
There is none
There is
under
here
in the general fund except those part-time and the other. But like I said, those are,
See.
I have them as permanent part-time. You know, if you want me to change the title on that, they're just going to make $10. That's why I'm not trying to confuse anybody. It's just that they make $10 an hour because they're permanent part-time.
Is that the same way with the nurse? Is it, you know what I mean?
For the $20 an hour.
Is it a salary or is it an hourly?
It's an hourly.
It's hourly.
It's an hourly.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
they aren't paid a salary. It's, you know, she figures at the high rate that they will work the 29 for that to put the
So the public defender is just, that's another income too, that where it shows up in the salary sheet, the 8,000.
Yeah, 8,000 isn't going to show. It's going to show as a permanent part-time. It should be permanent part-time under the public defender budget. I think it's 1,271 or 271. You see a part-time?
No. Not on the salary ordinance.
Now, the other thing is, depends, oh, okay. She's not here. Let me get with Ashley, because I think they may be following what the prosecutor's doing with, he has.
Research clerks and stuff?
Yeah.
Because they didn't show up on there either.
I think part of, like
And
when
the
we were
jail had,
talking
one
about.
more thing, the jail had, extra hire at 15,000. That doesn't show you.
Let me just take it one at a time. You said you had public defender. So I'll put a note on that. And then you said the prosecutor.
So public defender is what we're looking at.
Yeah, well, he's right. There is nothing.
For
I
the,
don't
it
have
was
Bill.
the 8,000 for what?
Interim.
Well, that 8,000 is not going to mean anything.
Right,
It's
but-
the hourly rate.
Right.
But
for the
there is, but
attorney.
he is correct. Oh, that's probation. Hang on a second. No, there isn't. So I'll take a look at that.
And what were you saying with the prosecuting attorney?
Yes, the three different 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year.
Yes.
People, like people that are going to law school that are clerking, I think they call them.
But I think too, wasn't there?
Underneath the prosecutor also, Matt, for the stipend that they get,
Okay, the clerks are on there. If you look under 1,009. Now, I'm looking at the ordinance, not the. They may have a total on the budget. Again, this is one of those things where they're hourly.
Right, we're
There's
doing
two
the
research
hourly.
clerks. Yeah.
Hourly at a spec rate, meaning.
But underneath prosecutor, you got full-time elected official, and that's where you show that's actual, the annual stipend he gets.
Right.
It doesn't show that. I mean, if you're not familiar with it, you'd never.
Where does it show that?
You got full-time elected official on here, and it's actually his annual supplement.
Well, he is a full-time, I go with the fact of who he is. That's my whole thing, is who the prosecutor is. But I see what you mean by it.
You're never gonna
But
take
see,
it-
this
you're
is,
never gonna
you know,
take it out.
it's not even a stipend. Well, maybe it is a stipend. But I've never treated that as a stipend because we pay that directly to him in this bi-weekly rate that we've always done. Now see, even you talked about the judges. The two judges, I do not pay them $5,000. I send it directly to the state. Everything they get flows to the state. Now, the magistrate court judge gets the stipend from us, and we do pay him at one time. And I think that says it in here, one-time pay or annual, whatever. Now, I can talk to the prosecutor if you want me to about that. I've really never had an issue with any of them with the State Board of Accounts.
If
The one thing
if they're happy with it, I don't care.
The only thing that worries me is the assessor. I don't want anybody getting, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be a big deal, but that's.
Okay. The only thing I've got a question, Matt, like whatever you're looking at the prosecuting attorney with the salary ordinance versus like the budget here. So you've got Jennifer Brown as a court office manager.
Yes.
But that's not listed in the budget as that. So is she just considered a regular, because there's like legal tech superior in the budget book, there's a legal tech circuit, but here it just shows legal tech, and then it shows a court office manager.
I'll be glad to line those up. It's a matter of the way it's been in the system against the way that the prosecutor. And I would rather bring the system to the prosecutor than the other way around.
Okay,
So I'll be glad
that sounds good. I guess just because Joe and I had talked like last week or something about it, just so that we have clarification for future reference, you know, so that we don't end up with something sort of like what happened with Todd Horn, you know, there was a discussion and then there was a discussion, and just so that it's kind of like clarified for future reference.
And on the budget, under prosecutor, you got prosecutor, county, supplement. And on here it says prosecutor, full-time elected official. Now there's no way in the world, if you can't read between the lines, you haven't been on here for a while, you're ever going to put those two numbers together.
I will say the only thing, if it's under the same heading, like 1,009.
Yeah.
It's what else could it be for? But that's not the way you're thinking, I understand. I'm the one that deals with it all the time.
I know you know.
So I know. So.
But it takes the questions away from 7 people.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That doesn't have any idea.
Like I said at the end of the last meeting, send me your questions. You're doing it here, and that's okay. But I mean, talk to me. You know, just talk to me. It's easier by phone or by email. Really, email's best. But anyway. But no, I'll be glad to look at the names.
Yeah, and I'm just 1 of 7. I don't know what
I know
everybody
you
else
are. You're
feels.
just. No, I'm kidding. So I'll find out about the assessor.
Just want to dot all the i's, understand?
Yeah,
That's what
There's
it should
nothing.
be.
You can hand it to a brand new council person, and then they can say,
Well,
here and here.
You know,
Now
that's
you
why
don't know.
I'm here. I had another one, and this is one that I may need help from Marvin on, but I think this will be right. One of the things on the Third Amendment was there were some that were not included that thought they should have been included, because I went strictly by what the amendment said that whenever it first came out. And there were some people that got here and worked like a few days after our cutoff date. And you ratified this today. And they want to bring them in, which I fully understand, and it's fair. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the information together and talk to the office holders and do, make sure everybody's in the loop. But what I wanted to do was, because I've got a start on it, but not a final, and I wanted to, I'll give it to Marvin and see if that wording is okay. There at the bottom of the ARPA, where it says full-time, part-time, I tried to word it where the people that would get 500 or 1,000 that weren't included on this year's stipend or premium, that they would be included next year, but I'm not for sure the names yet.
Okay.
So I thought if I just, and you don't have this, I'll show it to you, but I wanted to include it just to cover, I thought it'd be better that way. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Marvin, he said that. So that was, I didn't want to, I just saw that the other day and I thought, well, we're going to see it today. But this was what you approved today. There's full-time and part-time that meet these requirements that I didn't get in the first time because the parameters have changed.
Okay.
So like a
The
perfect
$1,000 and the $5,000 or the $500 bonus.
perfect example is Keith Sanders. He came in after the fact. He worked a lot of the COVID, but not before January 27th.
Okay.
So I'll add that to it too. Those are the things I had, and then is there anything else?
Well, just, I guess you covered it, like the highway, maybe Rick knows this. You have 21 laborers, is that right? 21 laborers?
Sounds about right.
Right, this shows 20. Maybe it's because you're short one, or you're getting ready, I don't know.
I haven't seen the proposed salary ordinance.
I don't want to make a mountain out of nothing here, but if that doesn't make a
Well, see,
difference.
this is what, to me, what this does. It's just like with the sheriff department. If those people are going to come out and go, they're still going to get, if they come in, they're only going to make one rate. Laborers and
Yeah, it's all the same.
they all make the same. But if you want me to put something at the bottom, just says to be determined, or someone else comes on where they're automatically locked in that way. I didn't think that'd be that big a deal.
No, as long as it's, they all get paid the same for what they're doing. But this doesn't match the budget, is what I'm saying.
So the budget says 21 and that says 20.
Yeah.
And the sheriff, or the jail had the same thing on jailers and dispatchers and stuff.
There's been a few fellas retire out of it.
Jailers and dispatchers make the same, so you did that so you
Cross-train some of
Right.
them.
Yeah.
That way, if I move them into an area and it doesn't work out, I move them back.
Right, yeah, that's smart.
So anyway. You'd rather me, as a whole, add another line to each one and just say, to be determined, that way if someone else new comes in, you can throw you off?
I'll fill that out in the conversation, I don't know, maybe I'm just being too picky, I apologize.
The only thing is, you just can't cover everything.
Right.
Just so we clarify a few questions.
Okay.
Not today, it's not this year.
So I'll go ahead
I
and
like
add,
the concept that you're doing.
you may go ahead and add the ARPA lines to the two I showed you for generic.
Yeah, that would be great.
Anything else?
So do we want to just make do we just need a motion to table it?
I wouldn't even worry about it unless you just want to. That's
Okay,
fine.
so we don't need to.
You're not taking action on it, we just discussed it.
Okay.
You want to table it then?
I got
Yes.
a quick question for you too. What's the difference between the budget shows part-time category line item and most of these say permanent part-time?
Permanent part-time is like a specific thing that someone wants
So they don't have to rehire everybody.
Right, I'll give you an instance, like Peggy Sluter works up in the assessor's office, she's permanent part-time, so she works 29 hours a week up there, and she does whatever it is that Dawn needs her, but then I think like the rest of it was like a part-time, it's like if you hired somebody in to do like just a few hours of work, yeah.
And it may even be the fact that I didn't have enough room to put more than what I should have put down. I think the part-time really, I would think it ought to be permanent part-time, but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know.
I don't know, I guess I was kind of thinking about.
I tried to go off the salary ordinance and then move it over to this one, so I can double check that.
Anything else?
Well, going back to the prosecutor. He gets paid out of two funds for his supplement.
Yes, he has to.
Right.
I think one's 3 and one's 2.
One's 3 and one's 2. But it shows in fund 8897 shows prosecutor Garrett Lowe's call $76.21. That's all it says. So you don't know if that goes up with the 3, or how do you come up with that number?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I don't put on here is the total. You don't see everything I have on the Excel sheet. I don't want you to get confused. So
well, I don't care about the total, but it doesn't say, if I'm looking at it, it doesn't say supplement.
Well, I'll change it. You asked me to change the other one, so I'll change this one too.
Because he gets paid out of 2 funds, right, which is fine.
Yeah, he came to you several years ago.
I want to split that
He
out
has
because
he has to. It wasn't like he had to do that.
Right.
The way
So
the
if
one
you could
fund
just put
said.
clarification in there.
Yeah, I'll do that.
You know,
Yeah.
so for future reference.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll make a motion that we table the salary ordinance until November meeting.
We've got a motion to table the salary ordinance. Do I have a second? Second by Brent. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Brent?
I thought she was getting ready to sing there.
Joe?
Yes.
We have a table.
Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am. Here, do you need this paper back?
County Attorney.
Unfortunately, I do have some things for you today. I'll try to move through them as quickly as possible. Both of them are unfortunately oversights on my part, so I hope that you've had a chance to review email this afternoon. We needed to shift a drug and alcohol court services part-time case manager, the description and hiring of which you approved in January 2021 from a grant position. We want to move that position description to a full-time position, and that is because of acquisition of a new grant that will fund all or substantially all of the full-time position from October 31st, 2021 through September 30th to, well, that shouldn't be right, should it? It should be October 30th.
October 1st to September 30th. That's how the grant cycle works.
So October 1st of 2021 to September 30th of 2022.
October 1st, okay. All right, so it simply moves that position from a part-time non-exempt position to a full-time non-exempt position, and draws attention to the following language in the position description. The position is a grant-funded position with a term of 1 year, and renewal and continued employment are subject to further grant funding or other funding source. So that it is clear to the applicant who has presented one of these and is supposed to sign off on it, that they understand the position is of limited duration, even though it is a full-time position. The second element of that is that since things start with the 1st of October of this year, and the person is already employed in the position, is simply moving from part-time to full-time, we have a proposed salary ordinance amendment shifting that from a part-time position at an hourly rate of pay to a full-time grant-based position based on a gross pay rate of $1,485.40 biweekly. The position is it was originally a part-time drug and alcohol court services case manager. Assuming you approve the change in job description, it will be, for the duration of the grant, a full-time case manager for drug and alcohol court services. Going back to the salary ordinance just for a moment, that salary ordinance in ordering the salary change does note that the part-time case manager position will remain unfunded for the remainder of 2021. So that it's clear that there is no position to be paid at that level for the remainder of the year.
So is that a biweekly or is that an hourly rate?
$1485.40 is a biweekly rate.
It's an hourly rate, it's like
21.22 is what it breaks out to. The assumption is
at 35 hours per week.
Yes.
So that's $38,620. Because if you leave the bi-weekly on there and you take that down to 2607, that's 38,724.
Well, when I did the math earlier today, Joe, I got exactly 1485.40. Probably came at it a little differently than you did. Although, I divided the 38 figure by 26, so unless I keyed something in incorrectly.
No. But Dubai is 26.07. I thought you told me that when I talked to you the other day.
I said if you're an exempt employee, this person's not exempt.
So that's 26 then instead of 20. Okay. Probably right.
You're exempt.
Yeah. Heard that before. And if you take the old 7 off, it comes up to exactly what you said.
All right. Motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept. Do you want two different motions? One
Well,
for the job
that's-
description and one for the salary ordinance?
I am
Can
fine
I
if
ask
you...
you something real quick though? We actually got funded completely. When I came to you back in June, we thought we would only get $61,000 and we thought there was about $1,200 we have to make up. Actually, the state gave us the full amount, so we'll be able to fund the position completely in full.
I was going to say that I'm fine that the motion is a single motion covering approval of the job description and amendment of the related portion of the salary ordinance, if you wish to do it that way.
Okay. I will make a motion that we accept the updated job description for the case manager in the alcohol and drug from part-time to full-time, and amending the ordinance, salary ordinance, to show $1485.40 biweekly.
I have a motion. Do I have a second from Ron? Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am? Karen, can you hear me?
Yeah, you froze up. Yeah, you froze up for a minute there,
Okay.
but
Aye.
aye.
Okay. Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
We have it. Unanimous. Mr. Attorney, do you have anything else?
I'm sure he does.
I guess call him Marvin.
I know he does,
Yes,
because
there
he
is
has
another
another
item.
one here.
Will this show up in your new salary ordinance, Matt?
Yeah, I already changed it to part-time full-time.
The other issue I'd like to address, and again, this was something that
No, he said it wasn't, I thought it was in the budget. You want A and D, I think that's in the budget, the 38.
paid.
For full-time?
All right, the other items are also position description approvals. In doing some work for the court-appointed special advocates department, it became clear that we did not have a formal adopted legal or job description for the juvenile court advocate, which is a position that is in the process of being filled right now since the director is the former juvenile advocate. We also didn't have a position description for the office assistant, which is a 20-hour per week position. So we, in my office, worked those up. If I recall correctly, we ran them by both Judge Allen and by the new director, Amber Spicer, with no comment or suggestion for addition. And they and I are ready to submit those to you for approval, just so we can get these on our books. As part of what my office is doing, gradually we're trying to identify positions that are not associated with descriptions or current descriptions and get that remedied. This is one of those situations.
Not advertising.
Pardon me?
We can just vote on it without advertising.
It's not an advertising issue. It's purely within your authority as council to approve, or if you choose to table so that you have more time to review. This got to you kind of late, probably noon, 1 o'clock today. And so I don't know that all of you have had an opportunity to review them.
It's just pretty much just putting the name on the job.
The job exists. They've used some loose descriptions for advertising purposes. We've taken both of those descriptions and turned them into the more traditional formal format of the county position description that you've seen hundreds of.
Motion?
Well, I'd make a motion to go ahead and job description.
Motion by Ron, second. Second by Brent. Roll call vote. Karen, how do you vote, ma'am?
Okay, I need to hear what the motion was again, Greg. So
The motion was to approve the job description as presented.
okay,
Karen,
aye.
these are for
Okay,
the-
aye.
Brent, how do you vote? sir?
I read
Ron?
it.
I read it to see them.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Passed.
Thank you all. That's all I have, unless you have something for me.
Anything else to be brought before the council? Anything from the council? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ron to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Brent. Roll call vote. Karen, are you ready to go back on vacation?
Aye.
Aye.
I thought so. Brent?
Aye.
Ron?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
We stand adjourned. Adjourn your meetings tonight, folks.